Hey guys, no video for the Buying a House in Japan playlist. Some of you might remember at the back of the old farmhouse is this building. About 6 years ago we did a lot of work to this building, including giving it a coat of paint. However, since then it appears that this awning up here has absorbed a bit of water and become weakened, and in the recent typhoon some of the sheeting was torn off there. It was a sort of a marine ply was torn off. A little bit of this storm shutter as well, which was sort of interesting. So any weaknesses in the structures at all soon becomes obvious in the typhoon. So on closer examination we could see that, yeah, there's water in there. Water's been getting in and it's all very dodgy. So as always with the old house, there's a good chance that probably in about 10 years time we'll probably sell it and buy something that's less maintenance and a bit smaller. And when it's sold, is most likely it'll be demolished because Japanese people aren't interested in living in an old place like this. So it's more likely that the buildings will be demolished and a new house will be built. So what that means is any money that's spent on this house we won't get back. So in some countries, if you renovate a house and make it better, the money that you've spent you'll probably get back. It's sort of an investment. However, in Japan it doesn't work like that. Usually houses aren't valued at much, as we've showed you before. After 20 years houses aren't valued at anything here really. They're just a pile of rubbish on the site as far as they're concerned. They actually take about 20 grand off the price of this house. If we sold it now, you'd have to lower the price by 20,000 because that's about what it would cost for them to demolish the buildings and take them away. So we've got the old unskilled labour on the job because he's very cheap, costs us nothing, and the goal is to stop the deterioration and make it look reasonably good, because it's at the back of the house. People don't see it except for us. So the two goals is to make it look better than it was and to stop it deteriorating further, because obviously as things deteriorate further it gets more and more expensive to fix. So what's happening there is a bunch of new timber is getting screwed to the structure to make it more structurally sound, and then some brackets like that one. So the goal is to try and make it last 10 years. Any work that we do to the place, our goal is to try and make that work last 10 years. So obviously the first repair we did to this place didn't last 10 years. The water got in a bit more than we thought it would into that awning, but it lasted almost 7, so it wasn't too bad. But this time round we want to do a better job than we did the first time. Time was a bit of an issue the first time. Some of you might remember we spent a couple of years working on this place when we first got it, so time was a bit of an issue, whereas now we've got a little bit more time to spend on it and do it properly, but still trying to keep the cost down. The total cost of this work was about $50. So it was some timber, some screws, some brackets, and some aluminium sheeting that you'll see shortly, and some paint that we already had left over from other jobs. So about $50 all up. End of day one. wasn't whole days. It's just in between other work. So again, more brackets, more wood, more brackets. These jobs get out of hand. They start off, you think you're just going to need a couple of brackets and a couple of bits of wood, and then you find it's worse than you thought, and ended up basically building a new frame within the old frame. It's just, as you guys know, if you pull that front fascia off there, the roof that it's sitting on, that's sitting on it is nailed to it. So if you lift that roof, then that roof runs back underneath the wall behind it, and then all of a sudden you're taking down the whole frame, and it just gets out of hand, and the cost would be substantial. It would be hundreds of dollars if we did that. So that's why we've gone with this. It's only really the fascia. The bits behind the fascia are okay. So the fascia is dodgy, but you can see all that wood there underneath the roof the wood was put down first on the frame and then the roof was put down on top of that. That's classic Japan style, which means that if you take the fascia off, all that wood comes off too, and the whole frame comes down then. So we really didn't want to do that. And then once we had it solid again, then the marine ply that had been screwed to the front was then taken off. We didn't want to do that first because we were really worried that the structure would fail, that the marine ply might have been holding it all together, which it was. It was really bad behind the marine ply. So this was a bit of a horror show. It was like, oh no, oh no, oh no. It was worse than we thought. But there was a plan. Put a bit of thought into this before we did it. We found that with these sort of projects, the more thought you put in before you do it, and you end up changing the plan a few times. We had a plan and then we thought about it and come up with another plan, and thought about it, come up with another plan. It seems that the longer you think about these things, the better the end plan ends up being. And then of course you have to adapt. The final plan that we decided to go with, you have to adapt, because obviously you find things you didn't know were there and it's worse than you thought, and my God. Oh no. So we had a plan. What we're doing here is we're going to take the bottom of the fascia off, because that's the worst of it, is along the bottom of it. And because of the plan we have next, we want only 60 mil of fascia left. So it ends up, so we want exactly 60 mil down from the roof itself. So this is measuring down and then putting this strip of wood along to guide the power saw. So the idea is to run the power saw along it and be left with a 60 mil fascia at the end of it. That's the plan. But of course, holding a power saw the wrong way up a ladder, dear oh dear, the unskilled, unsafe labourer. Dodgy Brothers Home Maintenance Services. Horror show. Sadly, this is actually a bit of fun, this cutting this thing, that scary and fun at the same time. But the day had been longer than expected, and the camera memory died in about a second from now. So we obviously just went right along the fascia, down to the left there. Next day. So the roof sitting on top of that is the problem. That's what's caused the problem. Is the roof itself's not in bad condition, but it's just a bad design. It's flat metal, tin sort of roof with joins in it, and it's just the water just sort of it's sloped, but the water just sort of obviously goes into the grooves, and it's just a bad design. But it's still in reasonably good condition. It's just got a bit of surface rust, so sanded off the surface rust, blew away the dust and the powder and so on with the air compressor, and then found the giant can of roofing paint still left over from the big job that we'd done previously, and just dropped some of that in the little can so it's more easily manageable. A little roller, roll. Again, that wasn't an urgent job, but when we're at it doing the thing, might as well do it properly, extend the life again, 10 years being the goal. And then there's the brown paint. So we've taken to putting leftover paint from other jobs. We put in plastic drinking bottles, 1 litre or 2 litre drinking bottles, and it seems to work really well. It makes it easier just to get some out. If you just want some to do a little job, just take the lid off and just pour it into a container and off you go. Just seems better than the cans. The old paint cans never seem to be very successful, do they? They let air in and the paint hardens, or doesn't seem to work real well, but the bottle seemed to be really good. Just pick up the bottle, give it a really, really good shake. You don't need to stir it with a stick. Just give the bottle, shake the heck out of the bottle, and then pour it into something, and off you go. So we're doing all the bits that are going to be exposed at the end of the job, and we're doing the bits under the eave, under the awning itself, that you can see when you look up. This was some brown. This particular awning gets weather. It gets the sun from early in the morning to late in the afternoon, so it gets sun all day, and it's out in the rain as well. So it's a really harsh side of the house. The other side of the house is really well protected and doesn't have much trouble at all, but this aspect is really harsh. It's a southwesterly aspect. About that. So this is the aluminium stuff. Found this in the home centre, and just the shape of it was good. It was like, yeah, look at this. So it's designed to go on a 30 mil on a 30 mil wide fascia, 60 mil high, 30 mil wide. But it's only designed, typical stuff in Japan's always designed for small. So it's only designed to go on a small windowsill, probably over a kitchen window or something like that. The designs of houses here are really standard. So usually things are all the same. The vents in the bathrooms are the same, and the fascias over the windows are the same. And so it's only designed, it's 180 centimetres, and that's what it's designed for, a window that's that size, or a sill that's that size. So they're not designed to be put together. And so it was a huge job to modify 4 of them so they'd go together, because they're not designed to overlap each other. And we wanted them to overlap each other to keep the weather out, because just having them butt up against each other wasn't going to be enough. So we had to recut them so that they would overlap. That was pretty tricky. And then drill holes in the bottom of them so that we could screw them to the fascia. And then that fascia, of course, nothing's square. Old house like this, everything's sort of bendy, and nothing's really square, nothing's really straight. And of course those things are perfectly straight because they've got a bunch of right angles in them. So trying to get things that are perfectly straight with right angles in them to fit onto something that's bendy and curvy and dodgy was really tricky. So what you're not seeing here, that little room there that's got the drop saw and the grinder and the hacksaw, and what else was used, tin snips, all those tools in there. We spent lots of time in that little room in there modifying all these pieces and coming out and trying them and taking them back in, and coming out and trying them, taking back in. All you're seeing is the end result. Once we got the pieces to fit together reasonably well, then we brought them out, put down some silicone where this new face is going to match up with it's going to actually go in under the roof. The roof will overlap it at the top, which will be good for keeping the rain out, but we still put a line of silicone up there, and then between where they join, even though they overlap, we put a bit more silicone as well, just to guarantee. You really want to make sure that no more water gets in. It was really tricky to get them to sit straight. So I did the left side first and then a bit on the right side here, because the dodgiest bit was the bit we're doing last. And that was sure to be tricky. We knew that wasn't going to be easy. So, but the idea is, once these are in place and they've got lots of screws, there was a screw every 5-6 centimeters, big screws, big 45mm screws up from the bottom, holding them in place, and then they're going in underneath the roof to hold them at the top with the silicone. So pretty confident we'll get 10 years out of this. Having said that, there'll probably be some earthquake or typhoon or something will come along and demolish the whole building. Can't do much about that now, can you? So yeah, screws, lots and lots of long screws along the bottom. And having cut the bottom 20 mil or 30 mil off the bottom of that fascia, it was going to reasonably good wood, which is being supported by brand new wood. So the end result's pretty solid. So here's the before and after. Here's the before. Loads of dodgy. We thought that marine ply'd be alright. It was pretty heavily painted. And we did get 6 years out of it, but yeah. Evidently not. Just a little bit too much weather going on where that thing is. The other side of the house, it's lasted. We've got lots of marine ply around the place from that renovation. And the marine ply that's on the north side of the buildings, the other building as well, is fine. It's like new. It's still perfect condition. So it's just that awning's just in too harsh a position, obviously. Made it a severe job too. It was working in the sun the whole time. So that was the before. And here's the after. Started raining just as the job was finished. So that fits the bill. Cost $50. It looks much better than it did, and it should last. Should get 10 years from it. There's the underside, all the screws, the brackets, the screws, the new wood. So pretty happy with that. There's a huge job coming up, guys. It's sort of similar to this one, but much huger, like 4 or 5 times bigger, is coming up. It has to be done. So there'll be another unskilled labourer job coming up for those of you who like it. There's about 5 of you who like these videos. They're a bastard to make, constantly setting up the camera and hours of video and then having to edit it. It's a horrible job and no one else is interested. There's about 5 people like it, but anyway. That's the top of the roof there. Looks better too, doesn't it? The rust, surface rust's gone. Anyway, there it was. More videos coming soon.